start with this. Well, some insights into the situation at 130 pounds involving the WBC Super Featherweight Champion, Eva Wahlström, Michaela Mayer, Terry Harper, and Elem Mekhaled. Check this out. According to Eva Wahlström, she was actually looking forward to facing Michaela Mayer. She was in talks with Top Rank, but apparently Top Rank, at least according to Eva, was unable to commit to the fight, whereas the people over there at Matchroom had made a serious offer for Eva Wahlström to square off against their girl, Terry Harper. A sizable offer worth a sizable amount of money. Thus, that's the direction that Eva decided to go in. She is going to be having a little keep busy fight, a little warm-up fight, a little 8-rounder against Kenyan contender Consolata Musanga on the 30th of November.
Now, this pretty much confirms what I said in my previous video, and I'll leave the link to that video in the description, that if Terry ended up getting the fight ahead of Michaela, who's ranked much higher in the WBC's ranked standings than Terry is, if Terry ended up getting that fight, it's because money talks. Both Terry Harper and Michaela Mayer are risky opponent options for Eva Wahlström. So it's not a situation to where you're circumventing one fight for the other because you feel you got better chances. Eva Wahlström has never struck me as that kind of fighter. She's taken on risks in the past that she really didn't have to take. She did it of her own volition. Thus, I don't view her as that kind of a fighter, that kind of a champion. I don't think she's circumventing Michaela for Terry. They're both risky opponents. I think that Michaela's a little bit riskier. I think that she's a little bit more well-developed, but better still, they're both risky options. And the hierarchy of thought here wasn't circumventing risks so much as if you're gonna take a risk, if you got two risky opponent options, but one of them is offering you more money than the other, well, that's the one you'd go with. It's common sense. So, before the year is out, the reigning WBC Super Featherweight Champion is gonna participate in a little warm-up fight, a little 8-rounder against this Kenyan fighter, then proceed into what is to be a fight with Terry Harper. As far as the fight itself, I think that Terry Harper stands a good chance of winning that fight, though she may struggle. She may find Eva Wahlström to be a harder opponent to hit, a harder opponent to hurt than anyone she's faced so far because, well, she hasn't faced that many people so far. So there are going to be difficulties. I anticipate that it's going to be hard for Terry to land some of those power shots because Eva Wahlström, even today, is still a crafty boxer. She's still very elusive. She doesn't pack much of a punch. She'd struggle to assert herself against Terry, but, you know, she does know how to hit and not get hit. That can offset Terry's power. It's going to be very interesting to see, you know, how Terry handles this situation. I mean, Terry handled herself really well with Vivian Obanoff, who's very aggressive and tries to bait her opponents into a war. Against Eva, it would be the opposite. Eva's not just going to stand in front of you swinging for the fences the way that Vivian did. That's going to be an interesting situation. But what's even more interesting about this entire situation is Elem Mekhaled's angle of it. You see, Elem Mekhaled was the interim champion to the WBC title. She was Eva Wahlström's mandatory challenger. And according to Steffi Bull, who handles the career of Terry Harper, poor Elem Mekhaled got done dirty by her own team. They vacated that interim belt without her knowledge. And this ain't just word of mouth from Steffi Bull. This is confirmed on Elem Mekhaled's side of things. She has since parted ways with her old outfit. This explains how it is that Elem's interim title ended up being on the line in the Katarina Tanders Danila Ramos fight. Danila Ramos, who Elem already beat. Hell, that's how she got the goddamn interim title. Yet somehow it ended up on the line in what is to be that fight. I had questions about that, and now we've got the answers. Apparently, Elem's old team, you know, her old promoter, so decided to vacate it without her knowledge. And at least according to Elem, get this, the WBC has promised her a shot at the green belt in early 2020. I don't know if Elem knows this, but she better not hold her breath waiting for that shot. Why not?
According to Elem, she is the official challenger. I find that highly questionable when interim status is going to be on the line in Thanders versus Ramos. That's who the mandatory challenger is likely going to be. Whereas Elem, you know, who knows? It's in the air. I want to say that Elem Mekhaled's situation with a former promoter is one of many situations you hear about in the sport of boxing, what goes on behind the scenes, sketchy promoter dealings. But even in a situation like that, I have to say that a sanctioning body a governing body like the WBC. A governing body that actually does its job would have made a world of difference. That upon Elem Mechaled winning that interim title, maybe they could have, picked up the pace a bit and ordered Eva to fight Elem as soon as she won that interim belt. That way, they ensure that she gets her shot. But, that's not what happened. It is what it is.
Here today, Elem Mechaled, at least according to her, she's saying that the WBC has provided assurances that she'll get a shot early next year. Early next year, Eva's supposed to be fighting Terry. You understand? That's what's supposed to be going on early next year. Thus, when Elem says this, I question as to whether or not there's any legitimacy to it. Oh, they might have told her that. They might have made those promises, though whether or not they're going to deliver on them, that's quite another story. Because interim status will rest with the winner of Thanders versus Ramos, not LM. So, I don't know that she's going to get that fight early next year. I really don't. I think that LM Mechaled, if she doesn't want to waste time waiting around for something the WBC may or may not do, she might need to go in another direction. Maybe she may need to look in the direction of another governing body. Maybe the IBF, maybe the WBA, maybe the WBO. Maybe she can get a fight with Eva Brodnicka. Maybe she can get a fight with Hyun Mi Choi or Maeva Hamadouche. Maybe she can get a fight with one of them. I dare say that, LM Mechaled, hailing from out of France, same place as Maeva Hamadouche, a fight between those two makes a lot of sense. It's just that, Maeva, she's very risky. You don't just decide to fight Maeva. That doesn't bode well for a lot of people, and I gather that's why LM, she didn't go the IBF route. She went the WBC route. I think that's a part of the reason that she went that route. But, she might have to look at another governing body. It doesn't have to be the IBF. There's two other governing bodies besides them she can look at. You can't trust the WBC to do their job. So, We'll see what develops as this story unfolds and whether or not the WBC makes good on their word to Elem Mechaled. Moving on. Rick Glacier, boxing insider, had this to say. He says, not good. Being told by a reliable source, Errol Spence is much worse than was announced by the spin masters associated with the PBC. And chances of Errol ever fighting again are very slim. Let's pray for Errol's complete recovery. God bless Errol. This is a full 180 from the, official statements that were made by the PBC that Errol didn't suffer any life-threatening injuries. He walked away, pretty good, and all he really suffered were facial lacerations. But all things considered, he's going to be okay. I mean, this was the official statement from the PBC, and yet, here from Rick Glacier, it sounds very different. It's a lot more somber, a lot more ominous. And I'll say that, you can dismiss a rumor depending on what other available information is out there, but that's just it. In the case of Errol Spence, there really isn't much out there. I mean, Errol Spence himself has not addressed the boxing community, his supporters, with a video or something like that to show everybody that he's in good condition, that he's in good spirits, and that he is going to be okay. We haven't seen something like that from Errol Spence. We saw a picture floating around. I saw one. It's supposed to be a picture of Errol leaving the hospital or something like that, but that doesn't quite cover all the bases, does it? That doesn't quite allay everyone's fears that this guy's going to be okay and he will resume his career as planned. I don't know what to make of this, because it's not good.
It does feel like there's some truth to it, that maybe, they wrote off or they downplayed the severity of what injuries he suffered as a result of that crash. That maybe the people at the PBC, they wanted to allay everyone's fears. They didn't want anybody panicking or anything like that. So they kind of downplayed
his condition.
Errol Spence's state and the severity of the injuries, what actually happened to him. And maybe it's worse than they were letting on. But the idea that the guy might never box again, I mean, what are we talking about here? Fighters get into accidents all the time. Sometimes fighters end up getting diseases. Daniel Jacobs battled cancer. They told him that he'd never box again, but he eventually came back and went on to become a world champion. Something very similar is true in the case of Anthony Durrell. He also battled cancer. He came back from it, and he went on to become a world champion. There's the case of Vinny Pazienza, Felix Verdejo. These are guys that were involved in motorist accidents, more or less. And those guys ended up coming back from those accidents. So to hear it said that Errol Spence and the severity of his injuries are so grave that he may not come back to the sport of boxing, it begs the question as to what exactly his injuries are. What are we talking about? Spinal injuries? Brain injuries? What are we talking about here? What injuries could he have sustained that would prevent him from continuing his career? And given that this is a rumor, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but we really haven't gotten much in terms of updates when it comes to Errol, have we? We haven't gotten much. So a picture floating around, but that's about it in the realm of updates. And what's next for Errol Spence? It being that, according to the PBC, he's okay. He just suffered some facial lacerations. That's what they told everybody. In that way, you would assume that he was okay based on what they're telling you. You know, so okay, if he's going to be okay, then what's next for him? Should we expect to see him in the ring early next year? Is he going to take some time off? You know, I don't know. You know, what's next for that guy? Because if he's okay, one would assume that we hear the updates. That, okay, well, Errol's going to be in action against so-and-so early next year. Something along those lines. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Because it is just a rumor, after all. It's a rumor per Rick Glacier, per some other person. So I take it with a grain of salt, and I'm going to wait and see. I'm not going to read too much into it, because at this point, it's just a rumor. But I will say, the fact that we haven't heard much in regards to Errol and how he's doing, you know, what's next for him, that's what makes it ring with some kind of truth. That, okay, people want to know, what's this guy's condition? And we just haven't heard much. And finally, WBO Bantamweight champion Zolani Tete. Yeah, this to say in regards to Naoya Inoue's upcoming fight with WBA champion Nonito Donaire, a unification match, the final in this phase of the World Boxing Super Series. Zolani had this to say. He said, Naoya Inoue is going to beat Nonito Donaire, but in order for him to truly be the king, he's got to see him. He's got to fight Zolani. Zolani went on to say that it was unfortunate that he had to pull out of the World Boxing Super Series due to that injury, but he's back, he's in good health. He's got a fight coming up later on this month against his mandatory challenger, John Casimiro, November 30th, in Birmingham. And, you know, Inoue, he's got to fight him. In order for him to truly be the king of that division, he's got to take care of Zolani. And, you know, I don't think that Zolani Tete is name-dropping or clout-chasing. I think these comments are coming from a genuine place of desire, to where Zolani knows this is the best fight in the division. Naoya Inoue has fast become the most recognizable guy in that division, in that weight class. In many ways, Naoya Inoue is the money fight for anybody campaigning in that division. Look at the turnout for this Donaire fight. Look at how many people have showed up. They sold this thing out. Okay, people in this region of the world, you know, here stateside, they seem to think that this is the center of the universe or something, to where in order for a fight to be a big fight, it's got to be here. Little do they know that that's a huge fight over there in Japan. You know, Naoya Inoue, he's got some celebrity. Thus, if you're Zolani Tete, from where you're sitting, if you're not fighting Naoya Inoue, you're not fighting anybody. It's for this reason he's pursuing that fight, rightfully so, because that's what the fans want. That's how the fans would have it, and Zolani means to give them what they want in a unification match that could potentially take place after the World Boxing Super Series is over and after Zolani takes care of his mandatory challenger, provided he wins. There are 4 world champions in the bantamweight division. Naoya Inoue, who holds the IBF and the Ring Magazine belt. Nonito Donaire, who is currently in possession of the WBA title. Zolani Tete, who is in possession of the WBO. And Nordine Oubaali, who is in possession of the WBC. Nordine Oubaali is actually going to be fighting Naoya Inoue's brother on the undercard for his upcoming fight, for the fight with Nonito Donaire. You've got to keep your eyes peeled for that and what happens with that situation, because if Oubaali beats Inoue's brother, well, I don't think Naoya is going to be too happy about that. So that sets the stage for not only a unification match between the two champions, but a grudge match to avenge what could be his brother's loss. Could happen that way. Could happen that Inoue's brother beats Oubaali, and you know, I don't know how I feel about that, because if he does, well, I don't think Naoya's going to fight his own brother. I don't think that they fight each other, in which case we'd be deprived of that unification match and thereby deprived of what could be the next undisputed champion. So as sick and selfish as this might sound, I'm actually hoping that Takuma Inoue loses that Oubaali fight. Yeah. You know, I mean, I want to see an undisputed champion. I mean, if we're going to talk about preferences, I'd prefer that Takuma lose the fight. Sue me. Back to Inoue versus Donaire, which is going down this Thursday on the 7th. Strange day for a fight of this magnitude, But, that's the way the cookie crumbled, and I don't have too many thoughts on Donaire's chances because I think it's just a happenstance that he's made it this far, a unique sequence of events that led to him, lasting this long. Who would have thought that it would have been Donaire and Inoue at the end of this tournament? I mean, Inoue, people figured he'd make it to the end, but Donaire not so much. People questioned, what did he really have left? Because he's already such an accomplished guy. He really has done a lot. He's been a champion multiple weight classes many times already. You just don't figure that he's going to get a second win, that his career would get a second wind. And in some ways that's what happened, but if you've been paying attention, it really has been a happenstance, a lucky turn of chance that has led to this point for Donito Donaire. So, I honestly think he knew he's going to beat him. I think he's going to take that WBA title. He's going to become a unified champion and thereby advance on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list ahead of Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz, who here today stands as a 3-division champion, though his recent activity pales in comparison to what Inoue's doing. Inoue just stopped one champion, and he's about to potentially stop another. Whereas Leo's doing what? He's about to go up to a 4th weight class, not to fight a world champion, but against Miguel Flores for a vacant title.
Okay.
And that's just not the same thing as beating 2 world champions back to back. It's not. Just in terms of quality of competition and what the fighter manages to accomplish. Yes, you're going up to a 4th weight class and you may become a champion there, but look at who you're fighting to do it. That's not the same thing as taking out 2 world titleists. It really isn't. And I gotta ask, when's the last time anybody gave a fuck about, a Leo Santa Cruz fight? Honestly, when's the last time you, me, or anybody was interested in what Leo's doing? He's an accomplished guy. He is. He's a 3-division champion. He beat Abner Mares. He beat Carl Frampton. So it's not like he never fought nobody before. It's just that, those are distant memories. Here today, when's the last time anybody gave a fuck about what Leo Santa Cruz is doing? And I know, those are just anecdotes, those are just opinions, but let's stick to the facts. Here are the facts. Recent activity has a lot to do with where the fighters are ranked, and Naoya Inoue's recent activity involves taking on 2 world titleists in sequence. Whereas in the case of Leo, when's the last time you saw that happen? When's the last time you saw that fucking shit? It's for this reason that Leo Santa Cruz is going to lose ground to Naoya Inoue. And very soon, Naoya, provided he's successful this Thursday, will occupy that number 6 spot.